Hello, everyone, and welcome to Vtiger CRM's Tour for a Sales Manager. I'm Matthew Costello, a customer success consultant here at Vtiger, and I'm really excited to be going over a large number of features you can use in Vtiger V9 to help make your CRM more efficient for you as a sales manager and to help better your team of sales representatives. So, covering the agenda for today, this is going to be a very feature-heavy webinar. So what I'll be doing is I'll be breaking down these features into their sections of key benefits in Vtiger. And these include setting sales quotas and forecasts, streamlining your sales process, getting insights, getting alerts, lead generation and automation, and increasing your data quality in your CRM. I'll then go on to a live demo of these features, and I will end it with covering our new add-on, Calculus AI, and how it can help you specifically as a sales manager. So this next one is the full features list of what I'll be covering today in this webinar. So the first one, setting sales quotas and forecast categories. We'll simply be covering the feature forecast and quota. The second one, streamlining your sales process. I'll be covering 5 features: pipeline management, journey tasks, quote templates, discount approvals, and documents. For the third step, getting insights and alerts, there will be 3 features: sales insights, reports, and actions. For the fourth step, lead generation automation, I'll be covering 5 features again: Mailroom, web forms, import, Vtiger enrich, and assignment rules. And a lot of these features actually kind of work together, so I'll kind of be covering them in that order. And the fifth one, data quality, also has just one feature, which is duplicate prevention. So going over setting sales quotas and forecast categories, I really want to cover what the importance of sales quotas is. So I'm sure you might be aware already. A big one is setting proper expectations for your sales team. Having those quotas they can view, especially within the CRM, very easily helps them know what they need to hit for the month or maybe for the year in terms of their sales they need. It can also help increase motivation. Seeing a goal they need to reach for, if your team is very goal oriented or sales oriented in that the amount that they sell, being able to see that amount regularly, it can help increase the motivation for your team. And finally is tracking the progress your team is making towards their quotas. So the forecast and quota feature updates with the sales individual team members make, and if you have them split up into individual groups, how the group is doing as a whole as well. And again, the primary feature that we'll be covering for this section is called forecast and quota within the CRM. The second stage, streamlining your sales process. There's a number of benefits that come with this. Of course, the most obvious one is it can help increase your revenue. By streamlining your sales process, you can end up saving a lot of time on menial tasks, which gives your sales team and you more time to focus on the more important activities in your sales cycle. The second one is reducing customer churn. Of course, streamlining your sales process also means that you're able to follow up more efficiently and not drop maybe as many calls or even set up more meetings. And this can help reduce customer churn because they like that efficiency. They really appreciate that, and having a more interactive sales team can help keep those customers. The third one is increasing customer lifetime value, and this one kind of blends into the point I just made previously. Of course, if you can reduce customer churn, you'll have customers that last longer, increasing their lifetime value. The fourth one is increasing the number of leads qualified. Of course, the qualification process is different for a large number of companies. My apologies. But being able to qualify them easily, whether that's through email or phone calls, or even if it's through a live chat, if you use that to qualify your leads, having all those options available directly within the CRM can help you really increase those number of leads you're qualifying. The fifth one is ensuring that your team is meeting their KPIs. And this is maybe due to making sure they're making their phone calls, or that they're making more phone calls or reaching out to more leads or closing more deals. Streamlining your sales process allows them to do so. And there will be 5 features I'll be covering for this stage. It's pipeline management, journey tasks, quote templates, discount approvals, and documents. The next features I'll be covering cover getting insights and alerts within the CRM. 3 primary features can be used for this. They are the actions page, the sales insights, and the reports. So the actions are fully customizable alerts available within the CRM. This is primarily where you'll get your alerts from. So the actions page lets you not only get desktop alerts based on what you've configured, but it also lets you receive alerts through email as well if you would like to do that. And these alerts can be anything from if a contact has not been reached out to within a number of days, to if a deal maybe has not closed in the timeline you would prefer. Sales insights are pre-built reports based around your sales team. So instead of having to build out each report manually, Sales Insights comes with a large number of great reports already available that you can use to monitor how your sales team's doing as a whole and how individual sales members are doing as well. And your reports allow you to manually create custom reports, charts, or pivot reports built on the data within the CRM. And this can be anything you can imagine that you might want to see a report built off of. So the next one is lead generation and automation. So I know even as a sales manager, lead generation is an integral part of the job and can end up being pretty time consuming. Taking advantage of the features that I mentioned earlier that cover lead generation and automation can really help simplify and automate your lead generation process. The primary benefits of doing so is, of course, saving that time by automating that lead generation, specifically from your website, and that can be done through web forms. The second is quickly bring in a large number of leads through importing. So if you do store leads in CSV files, or you have a way to convert your existing leads into CSV files, they could then quickly be brought into the CRM by importing that CSV file. You can bring in leads directly from social media accounts, and that's through Vtiger Enrich, which I'll actually be discussing on one of the next slides in this webinar. And you can actually automatically assign new leads that are created to sales reps. So you don't need to worry about taking that time to manually assign leads to your team. As I mentioned earlier, Vtiger Enrich is how you can bring leads from social media accounts into your CRM. So it ends up saving you time by finding and updating or creating contacts in the CRM from a number of social profiles, whether that's from LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. So it is actually a Google Chrome edition that you can download, and it shows up, as you can see here, as a new tab. This is, of course, within LinkedIn. And when you click on it, it will check your CRM database for an existing contact with the information that's in that social profile. If it exists already, it'll pull up that information, and you can update that information if some of it is missing, or if there isn't a contact created or lead created, you can then create a brand new one very easily without leaving the LinkedIn page. And one other thing I want to touch upon before I jump into the live demonstration is our new Crm Mobile app that comes alongside V9. It isn't specific to any one of the topics I mentioned, but it kind of fits within all of them. Because I know in sales, you're generally always on the go. COVID has kind of put a halt to that a little bit, but as things are opening back up, I know a lot of people are going to in-person meetings once more. And that generally means being on the road. Having a good mobile app, such as our new one, which is called Vtiger CRM in the App Store, gives you full access to the CRM on your phone, so you can keep track of meetings, and also comes with 2 additional features that are pretty useful. So if you set an event that needs to be checked in to at a specific location, you can do so with the app. So you can check in once you're there, and you can check out once you leave. This can be great for you if you're monitoring your activities, but it can also be great because you can monitor your sales team as well, so they can check in and check out, and you can see when they have done so for those meetings. It also comes with a business card scanner. I know as things become more digital, business cards are not as common, but a lot of people still use them. And the business card scanner allows you to quickly scan the card through the camera on your phone, and it pulls in that information and can create a new lead within the CRM. So now I'm going to move on to the live demonstration and cover all the features I just mentioned in this presentation. So let's switch over to my CRM instance. All right, so here we are at my personal Vtiger instance. If you're not using V9 yet, this may look a little different to you. So this is our new version of Vtiger, of V9. A large portion of it was fully revamping the UI within Vtiger to make it easier to navigate and find the information you're looking for. And before I jump into the features that I'll be covering in this demonstration, I'd like to go over this dashboard real quick because there are a few new features, and I do just like giving a rundown of the dashboard in general, just so you can get a better understanding of how you can customize it to your needs. So every user in the CRM will have their own personal dashboard. This, of course, is the default My Sales dashboard. A few of these are widgets we have added, but a lot of these will be in here by default. And these include the sales funnel of which deals are in which sales stage, the leads funnel of where your leads are landing based on the status you've set them as, and so on and so forth with the additional widgets. And starting off at the top here, this button actually allows you to project to display. So you can get a full screen view of your dashboard. This one actually lets you adjust the pipeline that's being shown in the dashboard. So if you use multiple pipelines within your company based on what type of sales you're making, could be enterprise or local, it could be any number of other options. You can switch between the pipelines that are being shown here, or even just show all of them at once. Here's where you can adjust the dates for the information being shown. So if you just want a specific month of information, you can click here and choose, oh, this current month. You can do last month. You can then even go down to a custom range, which is what I'm using for this information. And finally, you can add additional widgets to the dashboard as needed. The standard widgets are going to be default ones already built out that you can quickly add as needed. A few have already been added, and these are the additional ones that we haven't added yet to our sales dashboard. You can also add a mini list, and this is just going to be a mini list based on a module if you're choosing. So if it's deals, and then you can choose an existing list within that module that maybe you've created or isn't there by default to pull in those records from that list. The third option is pinning a chart that you've created. I have a few that I've created in here, but that you will need to have an existing chart that you've already created in your reports that you can then pin to your dashboard. And I'll be covering charts a little bit later in this demonstration. And finally, notes just adds a notepad to your dashboard. So if you want to take notes just directly from your dashboard when you log in, you can add a notepad to your dashboard. Additionally, although this is a personal one, you can create new dashboards for your team entirely. So if you have certain groups that should be using have access to certain dashboards and certain information from those dashboards, you can create new dashboards and share them with specific users or groups within your CRM. So let's start off with the first feature I want to cover in this demonstration, which is forecast and quota. And to get to there, we'll go into menu and then settings. Wait for it to load. And then under marketing and sales, we'll go into forecast and quota settings here. And here's where you can set up your hierarchy. So your organization will be at the top, and then generally the CEO or the manager that you want above the others will be next. And then finally, maybe the sales rep underneath that manager will then be placed there. And that can just be done by dragging and dropping that user onto the manager or the organization that they fall under. And then jumping over into the configuration tab, here's where you can start the forecast and quota from. So if you want to take it all the way back to 2014, you can do so. How you want the period to be set up, so if you want it quarterly or monthly, the number of periods that are going to be shown for the forecast, whether you want to allow the forecast adjustments and quota set revisions to be set by the direct reports deals or direct reports and their subordinates deals. And finally, the category and sales stage mapping. So here's where you can add the sales stages to the pipeline or the best case that's going to show up, or the commit, or the closed one, or the worst case. Closed one is set because really the only one that fits that is the closed one sales stage. And here you can see we do have some unmapped sales stages, closed, lost, and dormant, which we're not going to worry about. But we could add them in if we wanted, just by clicking on there and adding them in. So I like how our settings are currently. So let's save that, and then we can hit save and view. And that'll take us to our forecast and quota. So with this current CRM, we actually didn't start putting in information until 2020, which is why you won't see any information showing up from 2019. But I did want to show that process to show you can go all the way back to 2019 if you'd like. Then if you have some older data that you imported into the CRM, maybe from 2019 or even earlier, you can have it show up in the forecast and quota still and use it as a reference point. So if you see here, we have our closed one showing, the gap showing, the pipeline, the best case. And the gap is the difference between the quota that was set and the closed one. Currently, we only have a quota set for quarter four fiscal year of 2020, which was set at 50,000. And you can see the gap was negative 20,000. So if we can set or revise our team quota, here's how you can set the quota for your team. And you can also choose to notify them via email once you set those quotas. So all you need to do to set the quota is you can set one for the overall team. And then you can set each quota individually. And you can also do that for each quarter that is being shown in the forecast. You can export the information pretty easily. You can export the deals individually or the forecasts themselves just by clicking the export button. Clicking on settings will take you back to the settings page we were at. Let's go back. And finally, you can set filters for the forecast. And this is how you can quickly adjust how you want it to be viewed by, whether it's monthly or quarterly or even both. The forecast type, if you want it to be amount or weighted revenue. Whether you want it to show just the quota, just the forecast, or both. And once again, you can adjust the forecast time period. And the last thing I want to touch upon is you can quickly jump between if you wanted to show your entire team or individual users by clicking up there and clicking on that user, and it takes you to that specific user and their information. One last thing actually I want to touch upon is if you look at each of these, you can actually click on the information, whether it's the pipeline, the best case, or the closed one. If you click on that closed one information, it actually pulls up a list of all the deals that were closed and won, the amount, and you can even click on them individually to go into those records from there. So from here, we're going to be going into the section I called Streamline Your Sales Process. And the first item in that is pipeline management. So once again, we're going to go into menu and then settings. And from there, we'll look under marketing and sales once more, and then you'll see pipelines and stages. So from here, you'll see all of your existing pipelines showing up. Right now, we have two pipelines, standard and specialized. So the standard is the default one that will be available in your CRM when you start using it. And this includes these sales stages. You can remove or adjust these as needed. You can quickly remove them by clicking the X that you'll see when you hover over them. If we edit the pipeline, you'll have a lot more options available on what you can do with this pipeline. So if you see here, it shows up all these, it shows all the sales stages, the probability that they'll close, which you can set if you edit the sales stage. You can adjust the probability. You can adjust which roles are able to see it and the color of that sales stage. Additionally, you can adjust where these fall in the pipeline. So if you wanted to move negotiation above value proposition, you would just click here on the left-hand side and drag and drop where you would like it to be. And finally, you can add new sales stages to a pipeline just by editing it as I showed previously and clicking Add Sales Stage here. You would just give it a name, a probability, and a color. It would show up at the bottom of the pipeline, and you could move it to where you would like. So once your pipelines are created, you can see them in a number of areas. Where I'm going to focus on is in deals. So we'll go up into sales and deals here, just so I can show you can quickly change pipelines if needed. So we'll go here to one of our new deals, and we'll say it's moving on to the next stage. It's gone beyond new, and we now are in the qualifying stage for this deal. So you can actually go into the summary view, as you saw for that I did for that deal. Click up here where it shows the sales stage within the pipeline, and then just switch over to the next stage. And now we're in the qualifying stage of the pipeline. And if you see here, once again in deals, you have the option to either show all of the pipelines, just the standard one, or the specialized one. So you can switch between pipelines as well when you're viewing deals. And here you'll see we're in a Kanban view. We can switch over to list view just as easily. It won't show all of the deals in the same way it did in Kanban view, but you can switch back over very easily just by clicking that button once more. And it gives you that option to switch between pipelines again. So the next one I want to talk about, it's one you may have noticed that pop-up showing for, is a new feature for V9 called Journey Tasks. So once more go into Menu, Sales, then we'll scroll down a little bit until we find Journey Templates. Right-hand side under Automation. So clicking there, these are going to be the templates for your sales team to follow. So it's a set of tasks for each sales stage within a pipeline. They will need to finish these tasks before they can move on to the next stage of the pipeline. By default, you will have this journey template already created and ready to work with in your existing deals. And this is a pretty basic template. Like with new, you just have the first call, you take those call notes. In qualifying, you identify the ban timeline, then identify the gatekeeper, and so on. You can delete these as needed by just hovering over them and click the trash can icon. You can also add additional activities you want your sales team to take part in before they can move on to the next stage. And to do that, you just click Add Activity and choose which one you would like it to be, whether it's adding just a task, whether it's scheduling a call, or schedule an actual in-person meeting. And once again, for this one, you can set individual journey templates for each pipeline you've created. So as you saw, I started off in specialized. This one we haven't built out as much. But again, you could create a whole new journey template for your new pipelines. And the really cool thing about going into the journey templates here is that you not only can view the journey template you've created, but also all the related deals that are currently using those journey templates, just by moving over into the tab called Related Deals. So for this next one, and this is another pretty important feature, it did exist in V7, but I kind of want to cover it a little more here in V9, which is quote templates. So to get to our quote templates, we'll be going up back into menu. We'll go here under Apps, and then under Tools. we'll go into templates and then print templates here. And these work in roughly the same way they did in V7, where you can create a custom print template. You can use an existing rough template to build off of, and so on. So here we'll click add a new print template, and I'll just be creating a very, very basic template to work with, and I'll just be starting from scratch. So we'll just call this quote sample template. For the module, we'll make it for the quotes. The page format, we'll keep it A4. We'll keep orientation at portrait, and margin left, we'll keep it 5, just for simplicity's sake. So we'll go next. And now we're in the new print template. So here, I'm not going to build out an entire print template, just to keep this demo a little shorter. But I will kind of show you how you can build it out and what you have available to use. So of course, you can type out everything you would like here. Just type out hi, but you could type out any information you need to be showing up in the quote template. But the biggest part of these, and probably what you're going to be using the most, is this under properties. And here's where you can pull in merge fields for the quote. So here's where you can pull in the quote stage if you needed it, quote number, and probably the biggest ones you're looking for are the amount. So the quote amount, you could also pull in really all the information that's showing up in the quote with these merge templates. And just to kind of show you what that looks like, let's say we want to pull in the item name. You do need to have your cursor in there first. But once you have that, you just click on the merge template you'd like to add, and it'll show up like that. So this is what the merge tag looks like. What it does is it pulls in information from individual records you're creating that quote template for. So instead of this, when you actually look at the quote template for an individual quote, it will pull in the item name instead. Now, alongside merge fields, you can set your currency preferences and the PDF setup, which goes into sort of the information we initially set up in the details section, which is the orientation. And there's a few new ones, such as applying a watermark, the specific file name we want for the quote. You can also pull in individual information from the quote itself. So whether you want the individual subject of the quote to be in there, you can add that in. And the margins for the template. So that's just a rough breakdown how you can create these quote templates. And again, this isn't actually just for quotes. This is for all modules in the CRM. So any module you wanted to create a template for, you can do so in this print templates section. So after quote templates, we're going to be moving on to discount approvals. So once again, we'll be going into menu and settings. And from settings, we'll be looking under automation. Then at the very bottom, you'll see approvals. Now, what I'll be doing here is actually showing an existing approval I've created. And then I'll be showing you how that looks when we try to use that approval in an opportunity. So let's go into this approval I've created. I want to walk you through it. So for the you set the module when you first create the approval. For this, we created it for deals. We'll just call it a discount approval. We do have it set as active. And what we've set this as, and I do actually want to modify this slightly. So this is a discount approval, so we want it to be focused on the discount. So we want, if the total discount percentage, we'll say, is greater than 5. So if it's greater than 5%, this discount approval will take effect. So here's where you can set individual rules. Again, I've kept this pretty basic. So rule 1, it doesn't have any conditions. The owner profiles are for the sales profile, and the approvers go from level 1 manager to level 2 manager. And really, that's all it is. You can, again, I know probably a lot of you have a lot more complex approvals you would like to set up. And just following these, and you can set individual conditions for the rules as well. you can really build out these approvals to fit your business needs very well. So let's go ahead and save that. And I want to show you how this works by going into a deal we have created here. Let's go into deals. We'll go into just one of these new ones we've created here. So we'll go into John's Guitar. We'll click that to edit it, and we'll scroll down to the amount. And now let's give a discount that's greater than 5%. So let's give it a 10% discount and save that. We would like to continue. Oh, since I am, apologies, since I am logged in as an administrator, the approvals won't take an effect since I'm already at the top of the chain for approvals. But if a sales rep was using that, they would see a notification pop up saying that an approval is needed, and all that they would do is click OK on that, and it would send off an email to the next approver in that chain that you set, asking for their approval for that discount amount. And then you could actually go into that email and approve it from within that email. So it can be a very, very simple process. So after approvals, I want to go into documents. So to get to documents, we'll go into menu. We'll once again scroll down into, it should be showing up. It should be under essentials actually. Yep, essentials, collaboration, documents. The documents have a lot of options available. So it's not just simply for storing documents. There's a lot of additional things you can do here. A cool one is that we have integrations with Google Drive, Dropbox, and OneDrive. So setting up these, so if we click on Google Drive, it's very easy. We already actually are integrated with Google Drive on this one, but for Dropbox, if you're not set up yet, all you need to do is you can click a new document, apologies. You can upload. And from there, you can choose to upload it to document storage. You could upload it to Google Drive. And when you do that, you'll see it lets you, gives you options to log into your accounts. And then you just need to log in, who it's assigned to, the folder name, and then choose the file you'd like to upload and to where. So it really is as simple as that. A new document, as I was just showing. Let me go back into there, actually. So this is just fully custom built out document. So you give it a title, and you type out the document information you want to show in there. So aside from creating those documents, you can create folders and tags for your documents to help find them easier. And beyond that, you can actually quickly send them off to contacts very, very easily once they're added into the CRM. So if we go here into Ernie's contact record, go to the summary view, and if we click on the email icon here, all we need to do is insert a link. And from there, you can choose Vtiger document. And these will be all the documents that you have added into the CRM. And then we could just say, oh, we want to send them the brochure. It actually gives a link to that document. And what that does is that link will take him into a PDF view of that document, and will actually give you feedback on whether he opened that link, if he viewed it, or even added a comment onto the document that you sent him. So you can get great feedback on that information as well. So now that we've covered streamlining your sales process, now I want to go into getting insights and alerts. And this is always important for all aspects of your company, not necessarily just sales, but for sales, it is extremely important because it's important to know how you're doing, but not just you, but your sales team as well. So the first item I want to cover is sales insights. So to get to sales insights, we'll go back into menu, go under sales, and then under sales analytics, we'll go into sales insights. So these are a large portion of pre-made reports based around whether it's your pipeline performance, your sales results, your sales process reports, and of course activities. So of course we're seeing that there aren't any showing up right now. That's because we're viewing the current month. I'm going to just modify this slightly so it shows information from the last year, and we'll apply that. And as you can see, it's showing how many deals were added for each month of those specific years. And then going further down, it actually shows the individual opportunities that were created and gives you an option to download that data by CSV. And now that we've modified the dates, you can see the other information showing up here. So pipeline values, if you hover over it, it shows the pipeline amount, the closed won, the closed loss, and weighted revenue. And that's also showing up on a monthly basis. And going into the next one. And a lot of these are varied in how they're showing up. So here you can see our big deals getting the right attention, and then it's showing the activity account is represented by the bubble size. So that's how many activities are being done for each deal, whether it's meetings or calls. And you can then view the bubbles and see, okay, this large one is getting 13 activities. It's like, but it's only for $100 opportunity. It's like a lot of additional times being spent on a deal that maybe doesn't need that many activities related to it. So you can get a great view of where time is being spent for each month and which deals are getting that time spent on them. And here's just a good breakdown of your funnel progression. So you can see from new all the way down to closed won, sort of where how much is being lost going into each stage. And again, this just keeps breaking down into these individual reports. And they are very useful. Here now you can actually see the activities information being built out here, whether it's tasks, emails, or meetings, and how much time was spent, at least for the meetings. So that's a great way to keep track of what's been going on for each deal and how much effort's being spent on each one. So again, just a great way to view the information that you would like to see quickly for your sales team. Now, these ones are pre-made reports. I do kind of want to cover going over custom-made reports, and you can do that by going into menu, and then reports should already be a favorited module for you within the CRM. So we'll go into reports here. And I want to cover creating a custom detailed report. But before I do that, I want to cover two others, which is a pivot report and a chart. And I actually have two pre-made here just to save a little bit of time. So the first one I'm going to be going over is deals by sales stage. And this is a column report I've already created, and I kind of want to go over what it looks like and how I created it. So here you can see these are all the deals by sales stage currently existing within this CRM. And if we click on each one, it takes us to those deals within that sales stage. So if we go into the edit button, we can see how I created this. So I just gave it a name, put it in a folder, and chose a module that I wanted to create the report for. Going into next, here's the properties for the report itself. If you're just focusing on creating a chart, this information is not as important to fill out fully. So here you can drag and drop the columns you'd like to show up. So if we also wanted expected close date in there, we could throw it in right after deal name, and then it will show up as a new column with that information. And another big part of this is the group by. So this is what you generally would focus more on if you're creating a pivot report. But if you wanted to group by, say, the deal name, it then breaks it down into individual deal names, which you can modify further. You can also group by columns, and you can add additional data fields, which I'll be covering in the pivot report, so we won't worry about that right now. So the next one is filters. This one I wanted to bring in all sales stages, so I didn't have any additional conditions added. And then the chart itself was pretty simple. I just selected the chart I wanted to create, which type of chart, which I wanted to just do a simple column chart. The chart title deals by sales stage, the sales stage, and the count. And then I just saved the chart and ran it, and it pulls in the information that was in the report we initially created and pulls it into a chart. So that's how you can create charts within the CRM, and you can do much more beyond just a column chart. You can create a pie chart. You can create so many others. So it's a great thing to play around with, and I highly recommend doing so. So after the chart, I'm going to go into the very basic pivot report I created just to sort of walk you through it. So we'll wait for it to load here. And this is a pivot report I created based on the deal amount and the sales stage. So I wanted to break it down by sales stage, show the deals within those sales stages, and then show the amount for each. So if you look here, we have the sales stages listed out, and we can quickly break them down. So if we just want to see the requirements gathering and the closed lost, we could do so. And then once we break it down, it actually shows how many are showing up overall and ready to close. So we know, oh, there's 9 in here. I want to view those 9. We can bring them down again. And then it shows the individual amount for each and then gives a total at the bottom. So this is a very, very basic pivot report. But just to show you how I did it, a lot of it's very similar to what I showed previously. So here, the big difference is going to be in the properties. So here is where you wanted to set up the group by. So I knew I initially wanted to group by the sales stage, but I also wanted the deal name to be an option as well to be grouped by. So it showed the individual deal names as well. So, and depending on how you set these up, this is how it's going to take it in order. So the first group by was sales stage. I knew I wanted to be that to be the overarching point for this pivot report. So I added that first, and then I did deal name after that. And the other big one you want to focus on is the data fields. So the initial count I added, which shows that's the overall count for each section, and then the amount itself, and I just did the sum. There's a lot more you can do. So if you want to add the amount, that's the average, the minimum, the maximum. You can do probability, weighted revenue, the progress percentage, the subtotal, the overall total. You can add all of those as well. And then moving next into filters. Once again, I don't have any filters added, so I wanted to bring in as much information as possible into this report. But these conditions can be modified as much as you would like. So if you wanted to just be amounts that are greater than a certain, say greater than 3,000, you can quickly add that condition. Or if you wanted to just focus on specific sales stages, you could do sales stage is equal to just new and requirements gathering, and it would only show those two for this report. But once again, I wanted to bring in as much information as possible just to show as much as possible for this report. And that's sort of just a basic way to set up a pivot report. You can do so much more. It's another one I highly recommend playing around with. Just create what you want. And finally, this one I'm going to create from scratch. And this is just going to be a basic detailed report. So it won't be grouping by anything as complex as the pivot report did. So this one, let's just say we just want a basic report of all closed won deals. We'll list it as an activity report, and the module will select as deals. Next is the properties, and really the only big thing we're going to focus on here is we won't really need to group anything. It'll just be about pulling in the columns we want to show up. So we already have deal name, amount, we have sales stage. We'll get rid of the two that don't have information for them. And let's go ahead and add the pipeline. And I think we'll leave it there. Again, you can add anything you want to show up that's existing as a field within a deal into the columns. So we'll go next because the filters will be important. And this is where we're actually going to set a filter where sales stage is equal to closed won. And let's go ahead and save and run this detailed report. This will just pull in all the deals that are in the closed won sales stage. So very, very simple. I just want to give you sort of a breakdown of what's available in reports and just give you a foundation you can work with to then build out reports that you really want to see in your CRM. So the last item I want to cover in getting insights and alerts is the new actions. So here we'll go into menu, essentials, and then under collaboration, you'll see actions. So this is sort of replacing notifications in V7, and we wanted to make it more robust and have more options available. So the My Actions page will cover what you specifically need to cover for the day, depending on the actions you've enabled within your actions page. So here you'll see there's one setting where it's an urgent case, cover lost data, but you also see tasks showing up. So whether it's you would need to identify the ban timeline for a specific deal showing up or identify the gatekeeper. These are journey templates that were created, and as you'll see, they're actually due today at specific times. And they also will, the first thing that'll show up is, of course, the overdue items that you haven't gotten to yet. And the last section is coming up. So these will show ones maybe coming up the next day, or even see here, there's one on Monday. And you can quickly set them as finished. So if you already know, oh, I forgot to set that as completed, but I already finished it, you can just do that here in actions, mark it as completed. Or for if it's actually a meeting that's coming up, you can mark it as held and follow up, or just mark it as held. Similarly, if you have something like an invoice is overdue, or a case idle for 2 days, and you don't want to get rid of it completely, but you want to maybe snooze it and get this notification later on, you can do that here as well. So the at mentions tab will show all of the times you've been mentioned on a record. So if someone, one of the other users, has mentioned you in a comment, it will show up here. And as you can see here, we were mentioned by Mike Gordon saying they followed up with Ernie. And what you can do here is you can actually go into the user. You can go into the actual record that you were commented on by clicking there. You can also directly reply to these from within this at mentions tab. So you can add a comment directly onto the record just from here. So it can save a lot of time in that way as well. The updates tab. So if you're following any records by clicking on the star icon for an individual record, any updates that are done to that record, you'll get notifications here. So for John's app, AMSAL is following, and I can see that the sales stage is close to set to closed won, the probability to 100, and so on. So if you do follow a lot of records, maybe for a specific sales team member, or even just if really large deals are in a pipeline that you want to follow along with, you can follow them and you'll get those updates here. And finally, engagements. These are engagements, whether it's for emails. So if someone has opened or applied to an email, you can view those in these tabs. Or downloads or reshares for documents. So if someone downloaded a document or reshared a document that you sent them, you can view that information here. So beyond that, if you click on configure alert rules, you can actually modify the existing alerts that are in your CRM, whether it's setting them to active or inactive. So here, as you can see here, there's a lot of default alerts that have not been set to active that you can do so, or remove the existing ones if you do not need them. You can do so the same in engagement alerts for emails and documents. Mention alerts actually only has one, since it's just focused on mentions and comments. You can either set it to active or inactive. You can set the alert channel or whom to alert, and you can just do that by editing it. And Smart Alerts is the really cool one. So this is actually covering a large number of modules. There's a lot of default ones already available. And this is primary one for if you want to follow along with deals that may be closing, approvals that are waiting for approval, module alerts, events alerts, cases alerts, and so on. And beyond that, you can actually create new alerts as well. So you can create say we want it to be a smart alert for deals. And here you can type out the message, say that we'll use the deal has reached the qualifying stage just to keep it simple. Whom to alert if you want it to be the owner, and you can also set it to be the level 1 manager. For the conditions, we know we're focusing on the qualifying stage. So if we do sales stage, and we'll go down, and we'll do equals qualifying. Here you can also set if it's been idle for a certain number of days, you can add that as an additional alert. Or if we wanted to, instead of using conditions, we could instead focus on lifecycle conditions, which are a little bit more interactive. So if you knew, we know we want to focus on when they have reached a qualifying stage. And here we know that qualifying comes after new. So if you want to be notified once the sales stage has exited new, which would mean they go into qualifying, you would get that notification. Now you can set it up even further. So if you wanted to say, oh, if it has not exited new for 5 days and you want a notification for that, you can set that up that way too. And the final one is the alert channel. So if you want it just to be a desktop notification, you can set it here. If you want to receive an email as well, you can set that as well. So we'll save our new alert. And there you can see it. And again, you can do so much with these alerts. So anything you want to keep track of and receive specific alerts for, you can set it up here. So moving on, I want to focus on lead generation and automation. And the first item in that is going to be the Mailroom. So we'll go into Menu, Settings. Let me get rid of a few of these tabs. And then here, under Automation once more, you'll see Mailroom right there. So Mailroom is a great lead generation tool. So if you receive emails coming in, whether you have a group email for maybe sales, you can set that as the recipient. So if the recipient contains, say, your sales email, and you can have those emails that are coming into there auto-forwarded to the Mailroom address. You can also, of course, create a custom Mailroom address. So if you know, say for leads specifically, instead of that, you could say, oh, if the recipient contains this, and set up auto-forwarding for your sales group email to this specific email address. Any emails coming into your sales group email address will be then auto-forwarded to this Mailroom address, and then we'll create a lead. And just to look at what that rule looks like, they're pretty simplistic to set up. So you just set the criteria. So if the email recipient contains the custom Mailroom address, and this can of course be set to anything else you'd like, that can then be registered with the Mailroom. And then you choose the action. So we want to create a lead. We could also have it create a contact. We'll set it to create a lead. And then you can also have it set to autofill values from the email body. So if you have leads coming in that say are set up where you have first name and then it has the name after that, last name, say it's Costello, and then you can have additional information from there. So if you have emails that have lead information coming in this format, or if it's with a different delimiter, you can first add a sample body text. Say click here to find values from the email body. And then you can map those two fields in the CRM and then save. And then when those emails come in and are scanned by the Mailroom, they'll create those new leads with that information filled into those fields. And you can do that once again for a large number of, let's actually go back real quick, a large number of modules. So you can create leads, contacts, organizations, deals, cases if you are using the support side of the CRM, internal tickets, other records. So if you want it to be for a different module beyond those showing up, you can do that as well. Or if you just wanted to archive an email, and archiving an email just means that the email comes in and then will be linked to that related contact record if the email address matches. So now that we've covered Mailroom, I want to go over another great lead generation tool, which is going to be web forms. We can get there once again by going into menu and settings, but we also have it right here on the left-hand menu. And we'll hop over to web forms. So web forms are a way you can build out first the web form in the CRM. So add the fields you want to show up in the web form, and add if you want CAPTCHA, and so on. And then you can copy that HTML code and post it onto your website. And then that new web form on your website will allow the visitors to fill out that information, and it will actually create a new lead in the CRM for that module you created it for. So I actually have one created here for the contacts module. It's a pretty basic web form, but I kind of walk through it. So it's a test web form. We did choose it for the contacts module. So anyone that fills out the web form will then create it as a contact in the CRM. You can add a return URL. So when someone fills out the web form, they can then be redirected to a different web page. Any secondary modules, if you would like them. The status, and if you want CAPTCHA enabled or not. Just for simplicity's sake, I don't have it enabled currently. User assignment. So if the contacts that are created by this web form, you want assigned in a specific way, whether it's round robin or not, you can do that here. And then add the users you want added into that round robin list. And finally, the main portion of this is the web form fields. So these are the fields that someone would fill out on the web form. So if you want their first name and last name, if you want their mobile phone number, maybe you want their date of birth. These are all existing fields in the contacts module. So you can choose the fields that are already existing in the contacts module as fields they need to fill out in the web form. And you can drag and drop where you would like them to be in the order of the web form. And finally, you can choose if they're mandatory or not when someone's filling out the web form, or whether they're hidden entirely from the web form. So although they're part of the web form, they would be hidden. So if you want, you would first need to set an override value, but then you could hide them. So say you want all the lifecycle stages to be set as leads. So you could set that, and then it would be hidden. So anyone that filled out the form would automatically have the lifecycle stage set to lead, and they wouldn't even see that field show up when they're filling out the web form. You can also set duplicate handling for these. And finally, additional hidden fields. If you want to add them, you can add them down here. You can also allow them to upload a document when they're filling out the web form. So you can set the document title and whether it's mandatory or not. And that will also be linked to that new record that's created by the web form. But for now, we have it pretty simple and built out. So we'll save it. And once it's saved, to copy the HTML code for this web form, all you need to do is look up here to the top right, which says Get Form Code. You can click that and then copy it to your clipboard, and then copy it over onto your website web page you want the web form to be. It's another great way to quickly create new leads or new contacts within your CRM. The third one's import. This one I'm going to cover very briefly. It's a pretty simple process. So importing, if you do happen to let's get there first, and I can jump into it after that. So let's go into menu, and we'll scroll down here to tools, data management, and import. So if you happen to store a lot of your leads or contacts in CSV files, this is a great way to bring those in. So all you would need to do is click New Import. Give a title to the import. So we'll say New Lead. Select a module you want it to be imported into. So we'll say we want it to be a new contact. The file format, which is going to be CSV, it does have a header, character encoding for it, and the delimiter that's breaking up the information. So if it's a CSV, it would be a comma. That's the delimiter. From here, you just choose your file. I actually have one added here already, which is just a single contact I'll be importing in. Next is just mapping the fields. So here, this would be the header, and under that is the row one value, which would be the first or last name. You have the phone number, primary email address. Those all look good. Date of birth, title, organization name, and so on. So you can map out all the fields that you've added in the CSV file. The only thing to take note of is that there are mandatory fields that need to be mapped before anything can be imported. These are just the mandatory fields you've set within the module. So for the contacts, currently it was just last name and life cycle stage. And it will give you that notification up top when you're mapping the fields. So scrolling all the way down, if everything looks good, you can choose to actually save the mapping as a default mapping. So it would just automatically revert to this as an option when you're importing more contacts if you use the same format for your CSV files. And then you can go into next. The last step is duplicate handling. So we do have this set on, and this contact I'm actually importing is in duplicate, so it won't fully import. So here, check duplicates. We want them to be checked by primary email and mobile phone number. And we want it to duplicates in the file will not be imported if a matching record is already in the CRM. That is what we want. And we'll do next. It gives you a quick breakdown of what will be imported, and then you can start the import. Now here we will see that it skipped the record since it was a duplicate. And give it a little more time. And if you had fully imported records, it would show their information here. And then you could choose to import more or just finish the import. So importing is really that simple. A great way I recommend doing it is, again, with a test contact. If you haven't done the import before, so create a new CSV file, add the headers, first name, last name, and the other field information you want to show up as headers in that first row. In the second row, add the information for the test contact, and then try importing it, just so you can get a good concept of how that import works. And finally, and this one actually kind of works alongside Mailroom, is assignment rules. So we'll go into menu, settings, and back into automation, and right above approvals is assignment rules. For the module, we'll do contacts. And here you can set up assignment rules for each individual group you've created within your CRM. So if in the mailroom, when you have those new contacts created by emails coming in, whether it's to a group email or individual email that you've had that auto forwarding created for, you can then set up assignment rules. So if those new contacts are assigned directly to a group instead of an individual, you can then say we have them all going into the marketing group. Oh, I already had team selling in there. I'll actually remove it and then I'll recreate it just so you can get a feel for it. So say all those contacts are being assigned directly to our team selling group. So here in assignment rules, we know for the contacts module, the assigned group is going to be team selling. So we just select that, it shows up here, and then we can choose the assignment mode. If we want it to be round robin and keep it even, we can select that. And right now we only have one member in team selling. But if you had multiple members, they would all show up here, and you can choose to have them active or inactive. At least one member must be there for assignment. Or you can switch over to least loaded. So the person that had the least number of contacts assigned to them would then be assigned the next one, and so on, and it would then keep following that rule instead of round robin. And again, you can do that for beyond contacts. You can do it for cases, leads, deals, and internal tickets as well. And the last feature I want to cover in this demonstration is duplicate prevention. So duplicate prevention is this is one I actually recommend jumping into pretty early on when you're using the CRM, just to make sure that the data that you're adding into the CRM is unique and you're not adding duplicate leads, which can end up kind of bogging down the information that's being shown in your CRM. So to get to duplicate prevention, we're actually going to go in menu, settings. Actually, before I get into settings, there's one more spot you can do it. So if you don't have duplicate prevention set up, there's an option to find duplicates. So if we go in here under essentials, it's in contact management, you'll see find duplicates. Here you can select the module. So it's not just contacts, it's for all the modules in the CRM, but let's do contacts. You can select the list. So we wanted to check all contacts, and we want to base finding duplicates on the primary email address. You can ignore the empty values, check close records also for duplicates, and then search. We shouldn't have any show up because we have duplicate prevention in place. But if there were duplicates, they would show up here, and you could then select the ones you want to merge together and then merge them. But to actually add in duplicate prevention for modules, we'll go into menu, settings. Let me get rid of those first. And then under module management, we'll go into module layouts and fields. So here you'll want to select the module you want to set up duplicate prevention for. I recommend doing it for any module you'll be creating a lot of records within. So here we'll do contacts. And then from there, the third tab over, you'll see duplicate prevention. And here, you'll just need to enable it and then choose the fields you want the duplicate prevention to be based on. One I highly recommend using is primary email, just because that's usually unique for each contact and it's an easy one to check, and it's almost always going to be a field you add for a contact. But again, it could be any field you want within the contacts module. We also have mobile phone added, but again, you could just choose one field if you want as a duplicate prevention check. And here you can choose if you want to consider as a duplicate only if all the unique fields match, or consider as a duplicate if at least one of the unique fields match. Check close records for duplicates. You can choose to ignore blank values, and actions to take if the duplicate record is found while syncing with an external application. And here you can choose to prefer the internal record, the external record, or the latest one that was created. And it's that easy to set up duplicate prevention, and you can do it for all the modules in the CRM. So now I want to hop back to my PowerPoint just for a few more slides to wrap up this webinar. So let's hop over there now. Now I only have one more feature to cover before I finish off this webinar, and that feature is going to be Vtiger Calculus AI, which is the newest feature within Vtiger CRM, which is artificial intelligence guided selling. And especially on the sales side, it comes with 3 specific features within it that I think you might find useful. The first is the deal executive brief. There's a number of AI-based calculations that are offered in the deal executive brief once you have added Calculus AI into your CRM that can help you get a better grasp on the emotional state of the customer during the sale, even how likely the sale is to close based on previous deals you have closed within your CRM, along with a lot of other information. Another is AI-driven forecasts. So we already have forecasting quotas within the CRM, but AI-driven forecasts will use previous data from within your CRM to give you these AI-driven forecasts, where it calculates the forecasts for the future based off your previous sales records within the CRM to give you a more accurate forecast on how your sales team should be doing and probably will do in the future. And the third is the training and coaching feature within Calculus AI. What this does is it brings in recordings of calls and brings in emails, and we'll actually break them down and analyze the grammar, analyze the amount of talking they did in comparison to the prospect, and we'll give them reviews of their emails and phone calls, but we'll also allow the sales team themselves to send off certain emails or phone calls manually to a manager if they want it to be analyzed by them. So this brings me to my next slide. What else is there in Vtiger CRM? So I know I mentioned Calculus AI. Those 3 features I discussed were actually just 3 based on the sales side, but there's a ton more in Vtiger Calculus, and we do plan on doing a webinar on that in the future. But we do want to hear what else you'd like to see. We've been covering sales and support recently in our recent webinars, but there's lots of other features, including inventory, project management, marketing, and many other topics. So we'd really like to hear what you would like us to cover in depth in the future. So please share that, and you can do so by going to our website on our Contact Us page. You can use the live chat on that website or within the CRM if you already have a CRM instance with us. You can email us at support@vtiger.com or call us directly at the numbers at the bottom of the screen. Thanks for watching.